She's joining me on this interview today. What is your role in completing the CIP plan?
I serve on our school CIP team. This year I am over our teacher retention and development team.
Is this a newer plan that y'all are putting in place
This is
year?
the first year that we've ever had this plan at Oxford Elementary
Okay.
School.
Was there a reason in the development of this plan? Like, did you?
Consistently since 2020, we have lost or not been able to retain between 12 to 14 teachers for the past 3 years consecutively. So our goal is to retain 94% of our staff this year.
So, how important does that role involve the school-wide student achievement?
I mean, it involves it drastically. I mean, because we're constantly reteaching and recoaching new teachers every single year when we can't ever develop teachers. So we, I feel like, are in phase one always of safe environment. So we're kind of staying in that and not getting to the instructional side as far as our coaching cycles.
Yes. So, in talking about these priorities that you're mentioning, how, other than not being able to retain those teachers, how did these priorities coincide with our mission statement and our vision statement in our school?
I brought our Oxford City Schools mission statement with me today. The mission of the Oxford City School System is the focal point of a growing, diverse community. And to speak on that, at Oxford Elementary School, we represent 10 different countries, so we're extremely diverse with a huge EL population, around 18 to 19%, is to ensure the academic success of all students through a student-centered system of individualized instruction, highly qualified staff, exemplary facilities, and effective use of all resources. And so my role as the assistant principal is, number one, to support our district vision, but also to support our school vision. And within that school vision, that's to be the leader in all aspects of education. Our principal, Ms. Williams, definitely believes in developmentally appropriate practices, specifically within those K-3 levels. So I can definitely see our priorities and activities for our CIP plan being very developmentally appropriate for students.
So, what are some specific activities in that CIP plan that address the mission and vision of our school, academically, I guess, speaking? Because we've talked about teacher retention, we've talked about that piece, but specifically in the CIP plan, those activities for academic support.
Well, instructional practices, number one, specifically utilizing our training from letters and reading to really drive home that phonics enriched small group. And then in math, building that conceptual knowledge for students, and in all grade levels, implementing those number talks to let students have those conversations and learning from each other, and not just from a teacher-led conversation.
I agree. So, kind of switching gears a little bit, how have these roles, or your role, evolved since you first entered the administration role?
So we're under new leadership, as you know, this year. So typically I have served either on the reading team or the math team, and then one year I actually served on social emotional team. So I have been well versed with our CIP. And I can see as each year it definitely evolves, and we've put a huge emphasis on our 30, 60, 90 day plan last year, and definitely revisited that within those time frames to see what actions we had accomplished and if we had accomplished any goals along the way, as well as our data benchmark 2 and benchmark 3. We revisited those action plans, so I can see that has definitely evolved over the past 4 years.
Can you elaborate a little bit on the 30, 60, 90, like how it's developed or what it entails?
Sure. So within each grade level, reading teams and math teams and grade level like teams develop in those. What are we going to do in 30 days? What's our goal for that? What activities can we do in the first 30? The 60 day. What activities are we going to do within 60 days? And then as that changes, our data is changing too, which obviously drives our instruction. And so seeing if we're hitting our target, because ultimately we want students to be leaders in all aspects.
Going back to our mission statement.
Yes.
How does your role and responsibilities differ from other schools in the district, or does it?
In Oxford City, we don't necessarily get a lot of opportunities to visit the other schools as assistant principals, but I do know my role. As you know, we have the largest elementary school, and so with that comes more responsibilities. And so my role in the CIP plan is, to me, I have a huge role in that,
Right.
because the principal cannot possibly manage all of the teams within the CIP team. So that's my responsibility, and I really have a lot of ownership
Okay.
In our CIP, as well as making sure that I am modeling the 30-60-90 within whichever team I'm responsible for
Right.
as well.
And I know you mentioned like our school being very diverse, and I'm sure that makes it a little bit different too, across the schools. What changes do you believe could significantly impact student achievement in a positive way?
That's a very loaded question, Ms. Watson. But I mean, obviously, I feel like if we could retain teachers, year after year, we could build on their knowledge year after year. And going back to that mission statement, individualized instruction, highly qualified staff, like going back to exemplary facilities, effective use of all resources. So as a new teacher, you don't know how to utilize the resources yet.
Right.
And so building on that, I definitely think will have an impact on student achievement, as well as all of the instructional supports that we put in place within our CIP team for reading, math, and social and emotional well-being.
Right. So I know that what you're saying is obviously a practical change that could happen. That's why y'all put it in place. I know you talked about a little bit about the 30-60-90 day plan and how that's a monitoring piece. Is there any other ways that you plan to implement these changes with teacher retention and monitoring how that's going before we get to the end of the year?
So because this is the first year of us having this CIP plan, we don't have any data from previous years, but we have surveyed our staff with 4 essential questions, and we're using that survey to drive what our action steps are.
Okay.
And so a lot of that has to do with our number one area, according to our staff, was they wanted more opportunities for collaboration amongst teachers. And so my team is working on developing what are those opportunities.
Right.
And so I know those teacher visits this year are going to be very impactful.
And I know y'all also already give so much collaboration opportunities, so finding those other opportunities it's a hard task.
It is, but that's what our staff is asking for, and I know that probably differs from school to school too, but that's what our staff is most focused on right now.
Okay. Do you perceive that these changes are going to take longer to impact student achievement, than a lot of the other changes we're making? How do you perceive how the time frame and how long this might take to impact?
I mean, with training varies from year to year, whether we get new standards, new curriculum, grade level changes, there's just so many things that could impact this specific area, but I do think little changes over time will impact student achievement.
You've talked a little bit about how your position impacts the decision making and how you want to follow the principal's lead, and you're very involved in the decisions that are happening. Is there anything else that might impact your decision making within the CIP or within our school, like any type of boundaries or?
Of course, we definitely want to utilize our district staff team, and so I appreciated them being highly involved in our planning piece. And we definitely plan on surveying the staff, because ultimately we need to know what they're thinking and what their needs are in order to meet them.
Right.
And so I always say, as an assistant principal, we have 1 foot in the classroom and 1 foot out the classroom.
Right.
And so really utilizing that 1 foot in the classroom to make sure that we're making the most positive impact that we can in that area.
Oh, that's awesome. Well, thank you so much.
You're
This
welcome.
concludes our interview.
Okay, so thank you.